I wish I could tell you I was a good person who made one bad decision, like something you could wrap in a napkin and throw away before it stains. But I didn't make one bad decision. I made a string of glittering, stupid ones, and I strung them into a necklace and wore it until it cut my neck. If you want the beginning, it's the kind of story that sounds harmless when you say it out loud. I was a hungry junior editor with an empty byline page and a boyfriend who could spin gold out of Wednesday nights. That's how I talked about him to my friends, lightly like a garnish, as if he were a mood I put on, not a person I'd promised things to when nobody was looking. His name is Theo. He teaches ninth grade English and has hands that always smell like chalk, no matter how hard he scrubs. He writes in the mornings before school, the way other people stretch. Quiet, purposeful, refusing to make it a spectacle. When we moved in together, I found little paper drifts everywhere. Phrases that didn't belong to any assignment, characters looking for a home, city names he only said to himself. He never called himself a writer. He said, "I'm trying to tell a story I can live with." I loved him for that sentence, briefly and fiercely, the way you love a small animal that trusts you before you've earned it. I work in literary media, which is a dress-up way to say I hand out adjectives for a living. Striking, electric, unflinching. I can unflinch anything if you give me 1 hour and a coffee. I was always the youngest at the table, which made me both essential and disposable. I fetched quotes and wrote copy nobody noticed until it was wrong. I learned how to make my voice sound like whoever was paying me that day. On paper, my ambition looked like a virtue. In my chest, it felt like a hunger I couldn't feed fast enough. The night I made the first cut in my own life, I came home to find Theo sitting on the floor with pages spread around him like a paper city. He had that look he gets when he's solved the part of the problem he can name, but not the part that makes it sing. "Read this?" he asked, without any ceremony. It was a few chapters from something he'd been working on for years. A novel about a kid who hears the dead in old buildings, not ghosts exactly, but echoes, and thinks he can fix his mother by listening hard enough. It didn't sound like anything I'd ever pitched, because it wasn't a pitch. It was alive in a way that made me jealous. I read it on the couch while he made tea. The voice was clean and strange and full of the kind of tenderness that makes you flinch until you admit you needed it. I put the pages down and said the worst thing possible. "This is almost something." I meant it as encouragement. What he heard was that he hadn't arrived. Both were true. He looked at me the way he looks at his students when they're about to quit on a paragraph, and then, of course, he didn't quit. He went back to his desk the next morning and kept going. Enter Maya. If Theo is the person who apologizes to chairs when he bumps them, Maya is the person who cuts through crowded rooms like she owns the air. She edits one of those cool magazines whose launch parties smell like perfume samples and specific disdain. I met her at a panel about the future of narrative, which is always just older people asking younger people to speak in ways they can hashtag. After it at the bar, I laughed too easily at Maya's jokes because I wanted to live in her world where people took your words and turned them into confetti and rent money. She said she liked my taste. She said I had an instinct for the just-about-to-be trend. She said if I ever had something that felt like a pulse, I should send it to her first. It felt like being seen, which is the kind of seeing that can blind you if you stand too close. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Theo's pages, about the clean line of a story that knew where its heart beat, about how I could shape it, how I could make it sound like something a room full of people would clap for. I told myself I was helping. It's the first lie you learn to speak fluently when you're about to pick someone's pocket. "I'm doing this for you." I did not send Maya Theo's chapters. I'm not that stupid, or not that obvious. I had pitched her an essay, a meditation on grief and urban sound that borrowed the same memory architecture as Theo's opening, without any of his sentences. I wrapped it in my voice and my credentials and my shameless need to be told yes. She said it was intriguing. She asked if there was a bigger project underneath, and I, who had never successfully invented a bigger project from scratch, said yes like I was answering the proposal. I sent her a concept document, the bridge-sized version of Theo's idea, with all the guardrails turned into glitter. She called me. She said this could be something. She said, "I want to see pages," and she said a number out loud that made something inside me lean forward like a dog who hears his leash tingle. "I have to write it first," I joked, trying to sound breezy, and not like a thief in a dressing room. "Great," she said. "We'll talk timeline." I should have told Theo. I should have said, "Hey, I think I can help you get this in front of the right person." I should have said, "Do you want that?" Instead, I told myself I was testing the waters, and if it turned into something real, I'd bring him into it like a magician revealing a dove with a flourish. I pictured myself then, standing in our tiny kitchen with a mouthful of applause I hadn't earned, and I wanted to slap the cup out of my own hand. I started working nights, not on my job, but on the thing I was now calling my project in emails with Maya. I took Theo's scaffolding and hung lights on it. I smoothed out the weirdness that made it special and replaced it with the kind of sentences people screenshot and post with flower emojis. I added a romance because I know where markets go. I cut the parts that felt too raw because I can smell discomfort, and I have made a life of making sure other people never have to feel it. I told myself this was what editors do. They turn the raw into the readable. I told myself that if I could pull this off, I would open the door for Theo with my shiny new key. I am not going to lie to you about the thrill. There is no moral way to explain away the way it feels when someone like Maya sends you heart emojis about your voice. It's a drug that doesn't come with a hangover until later, and by the time later arrives you've already pawned your grandmother's ring for another hit. We started meeting after work. She ordered martini and took phone calls while I explained myself in barlight. She touched my wrist when she said, "Trust me," she said. "I know what to do with this," she said. "You've got the thing people pretend they have." I started being late to dinner. I started saying deadline with the kind of grave tone that makes a man who loves you say, "I'll eat without you. It's okay." Meanwhile, Theo kept writing. He woke before dawn, made coffee, sat with the pages like prayer. He never asked what I was doing in the living room at midnight with my laptop glued, turning my face into a lie. He never read over my shoulder. He never assumed the worst. He assumed, as decent people do, that the person they share a bed with isn't building a trap inside the sheets. When he'd ask, "How's work?" I'd say good and mean Maya, and he would tell me about the kid in his third period who finally understood metaphor because of a song lyric, and I would nod like I was listening to the part of the story that mattered. The deal, way it came, was a small deal. Digital verse, a series of long essays that would, if they did well, turn into something bigger. Enough to make your mother proud. Enough to make your boyfriend plan a celebratory dinner where he buys the fancy cheese. Enough to make you forget the part where you stole the bones. Maya sent a contract with my name on it, and a timeline that made my stomach flip in a way I confused with joy. I signed, and the moment the ink dried, I felt a cold little hand close around my throat. I put the contract in a folder and told Theo I was taking on more at work so I might be a ghost for a while. He smiled, stupid with love, and said, "I see you. Here's where I tell you something I still don't understand." Theo knew. Maybe not every detail, maybe not the terms, but he knew something was wrong, and he didn't storm in with accusations or tears. He made an appointment at the copyright office. He printed his manuscript, messy, too tender, too odd, still forming, and he registered it. He told nobody. He kept showing up at school at 7:15 with his coffee and his folded shirts in his chalk hands. He revised the parts I tried to sand down, not knowing, or maybe knowing, that those were the parts that would save him later. He dated his pages. He backed them up. He did the boring administrative miracles that keep good work from being stolen by people like me. My aunt set a date for a small live event. One of those salon things with folding chairs and flat wine, where people pretend they've already read your work. "We'll publish the first piece that morning," she said, "and then you'll read an excerpt tonight. It's going to be a vibe. We picked a venue with brick walls and a neon sign, because of course we did." She asked who I wanted to invite. I said, lightly, my boyfriend. "My guest," and she said, "He'll be proud, like a dare." The night before publication, Theo cooked dinner. He made the pasta I always ask for when I'm scared. Butter, lemon, a handful of peas, like something gentle in a bowl. We ate at the coffee table because we always do, knees touching. He asked if he could come to the reading. I lied reflexively. "It's small, really just industry." And he put down his fork and looked at me with a softness that hurt. "Jess," he said, and my name in his mouth sounded like the final page in a book you don't get to finish. "I'm coming." The morning of, my essay went live with a headline that made me cringe and also want to kiss my own reflection. The pull quote was one I'd written to be pulled. The photo made me look like a person you should listen to. Comments were the kind that make you believe you might be a person worth paying. I went to the office and floated while people have congratulated me, which is how people who want your job say good work. Maya sent me a link to the RSVP list for the event. Sponsors, editors, a couple of writers I only admired from afar, and I noticed an email address I recognized that didn't belong to any of them. Theo's school account. He had RSVP'd like a ninth grader asking permission to retake a quiz. Something in me started counting exits. I won't draw out the fuse. The event looked exactly like my ambition. Pretty lights, polite laughter, people who are good at pretending their attention is a currency you can deposit. I read from my piece. I watched highest lift and lower in that synchronized way audiences have when they're agreeing to be charmed. I made my mouth do the right shapes. I did not look for Theo, which is how I knew he was there. I could feel him, not burning like a spotlight, just steady like a lamppost on a street you used to love. Maya took the mic back and did the perfunctory let's open it up thing. 2 questions came, the kind that allow you to repeat your thesis in different shoes. Then a third. "Hi," a male voice said, clear and calm. "I'm wondering if you could talk about your research process. Specifically, how you approach the scaffolding." When I looked up, Theo was standing near the back, not angry, not small. Just present. He held a manila envelope in one hand like he'd come from the post office. He wasn't dressed for a literary event. He wore the same shirt he wore to school that day, sleeves rolled. He looked like himself. The room turned its head toward him in practiced curiosity. Maya, who can smell a spark in a forest, smiled thinly. "We're at time," she said, but Theo didn't push. He just nodded like he'd asked the weather a question. After, while people made small networking shakes and glass clinked again because discomfort needs ice, Theo waited. He didn't come storming up to me. He waited until Maya came to shake his hand, because she is fearless in the exact ways I have always envied. "Thanks for coming," she said, voice like a brand new knife. "Jesse's piece is the start of something big." Theo smiled the way he smiles at kids who think the answer is the alphabet when the question was numbers. "It is the start of something," he agreed. Then he handed her the envelope. "The woman who manages it, and you must have been told to start the pre-recorded thank you for coming playlist at a certain time, because soft music kicked in, and for a second I thought maybe we would just slide out of this." Meyer opened the envelope like a person expecting to find a headshot. Inside, there were copies of Theo's copyright registration, time-stamped months earlier, manuscript pages with dates on them, specific passages highlighted in yellow where my bones and his bones matched. He had circled my original metaphor like a teacher in a margin and written CP 17, draft 2, in pencil. It looked so simple like that. Receipts, annotated. Maya looked at me, not with shock, with calculation. She didn't look at Theo again because the power had already shifted, and she doesn't waste glances. She said, "We'll handle this." To him and to me, she said, without moving her lips much. "Go home," I said, "because I'm stupid and greedy, even in defeat." "We can fix it," she said. "We won't," and walked away with the envelope like it was a bomb she could defuse in a better lit room. There are kinds of humiliation that scream and kinds that hum. This one hummed through my bones. Word travels fast in rooms built out of words. A blogger who loves blood published a post before I'd even taken off my shoes. The magazine pulled the essay down within an hour and issued a note full of phrases I've written for other people. Does not meet our standards, editorial oversight, regret. My inbox filled with subject lines that sounded like condolences and read like warnings. My boss forwarded me a link with explain in the body. I thought about explaining. I thought about lying better. Then I turned off my phone and sat in the dark and listened to the radiator make old house noises and tried not to be the kind of person who only tells the truth when she's cornered. Theo didn't come home that night. He texted once. "I'm at my brother's. I'll get my stuff Saturday. No rage. No sermon." The grief was in the grammar. I sat at our table and wrote him a letter I didn't send because if anyone ever earned the right not to read another word from me, it was him. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up with the taste of a swallowed cry in my mouth. Saturday, he came with 2 friends who treated me like a storm you drive slowly through. He packed quietly, efficiently, like he was labeling a life into boxes. He took the notebooks and the chalk-stained hoodies and the month that says I before E, except after C that has driven me insane for years. He left the plant we named Todd because Todd once drooped dramatically for no reason, and then perked back up out of spite. He left a folder on the coffee table with a copy of everything he'd given Maya and a note on top in his neat teacher print. Jess, I'm not suing you. I registered to protect myself, not to hurt you. Please don't do this to anyone else. I cried then, the ugly kind that shakes your jaw. He didn't hold me. He didn't flinch. He closed the door gently like you close a sleeping baby's door. I wanted him to slam it. I wanted him to teach me that noise means tear. He refused me even that. That was his revenge, or the beginning of it. He refused to participate in my dramatic arc. If the story ended there, you say he lost something and I lost something and maybe we both learned a lesson. But you said you wanted the version where the guy wins and the girl loses, and yes, I know how that sounds and I'm still saying it. Theo won. Not loudly. Not online. In the only way that matters. A quiet, structural way. 2 weeks after my piece was removed, an announcement went up on a small press's site. Debut novel acquisition. A log line was simple, unglossy, perfect. A boy hears the dead in old buildings and tries to save the living. The author's name was Theodore Walsh. No headshot. No pull quote. Just the truth dressed in nouns and a date. The press is run by a publisher who taught ninth grade before she opened a shop, who believes tenderness is not a liability, who chooses books that don't perform trauma for sport. I found out later that the submission had come via a referral from a magazine editor who'd received an envelope at a party and knows what to do with a bomb when she sees one. Set it down and step away from the thief holding the mesh. Then call someone who builds better things. Maya never emailed me again. She did what she had to do to protect her masthead and moved on, because that's what people who survive in this business do. My job didn't fire me, because they can't prove theft if you stole bones and not sentences. But I become what we all become when our names sour a room. A cautionary tale whispered over happy hour glasses. I do small freelance jobs now, nothing with my name on it, and every sentence I clean feels like penance I accepted late. People say at least nobody dried you on Twitter. That's not a kindness. That's a sentence I'm serving without witnesses. Theo sent me one more message months later. It was a photo. A printed galley with his name on the spine. Penny's paw in the corner of the frame, pressed like a blessing. No words. He didn't need them. He'd already said the important thing. Don't do this to anyone else. I saved the photo like a lunatic, as if it were mine to keep. I saw him in person only once after that by accident at the public library where we used to sit in the days before our rent demanded all our attention. He was at a table with a kid I didn't know, and they were both grinning at a sentence like it had just told them a secret. He looked up because you feel when someone is looking at you, and he didn't look away like I expected. He nodded, polite, a stranger. The boy asked him something, and he turned back to the page because that's who he is. Someone who looks at the words that are in front of him and makes them better. I walked out into the afternoon and didn't cry. I didn't earn the tears. I bought a coffee from the cart outside, and stood under a tree, and let the wind move the leaves like a whisper I couldn't translate. I wanted to tell a story where I am the hero of my own repentance. I wanted to make this neat. But neatness is for press releases. Here is the mess. I love the man who built a thing so carefully that even my mess couldn't ruin it. I tried to take it, and he made sure the structure didn't collapse. Then he walked across the bridge he built, and left me on the side I chose. If you're waiting for me to say I learned my lesson, I did, and I didn't need a moral to do it. I needed the sound of my own name not being on the spine. I needed a room full of people seeing me and not clapping. I needed the specific quiet of a door that closes without a bang. I still edit. I still pass out adjectives like napkins. But I don't take bones. When I feel that hunger, I remember his note, protect yourself, don't hurt others. It sounds banal when you write it. It feels like architecture when you live it. I tell this not because I think my confession buys me anything back. It doesn't. I tell it because you asked for a new plot and a different theme, and here it is. Not adultery, not hotel lobbies, not lipstick on a glass. Theft, but of the kind that's almost always called inspiration until someone brings paperwork. Revenge, but quiet, surgical, beautiful in its restraint. He didn't shred me in front of an audience. He held up a folder and let a smarter room do the math. He refused my drama. He kept his book. He won. I lost in the only way that matters to people like me. I lost the right to say I made that. And if you want the small, human ending, Months from now, when his novel comes out, I'll buy it. Not a galley, not a PDF, but a real copy with a cover you can bend without breaking. I'll read it on the couch where we ate lemon pasta, alone. And when I get to the sentence that I tried to shine until it blinded everybody, I'll see how he kept it tender and odd and exactly himself. I'll close the book and sit with it quiet. Then I'll put it on the shelf next to the plant named Todd, and the mug that still makes me mad, and the folder I never open. And I'll remind myself that love without integrity is just appetite, and appetite without discipline is how you end up telling strangers the story of the day you finally met the consequence of your own talent for borrowing.